Okay, and I'm just going to bring Bear into the feed. There we go.
There we go.
Just going to do a quick introduction.
Yeah.
Quick chance actually. Who's not been to a LAM workshop before?
Quite a lot.
And this is why rope is always popular, and we will always bring in the basic elements, because shockingly enough, so many of you choose this as one of the early events, or you want to come and learn and you engage with the learning, because you know what? No one cracked out of an egg a fully developed dominant or submissive. It's as simple as that. So we've all got to learn, and that's one of the things that we all share in common. So I'm going to hand the floor over to Bear for about the next 45 minutes or so. Yep. I'm going to run away because I saw most of this at Manchester. Yep, it's excellent, really worth going, and I will come and see you in a bit. Have fun and enjoy, and I'll get out so there's a little bit more oxygen left in the room.
Right, so as everybody as David's already said, I'm Bear. Weirdly enough, I've been known as Bear for over 30 years, which is kind of weird. Very few people know my real name, which I've got no issue telling people. It's forgetful. So my name's Sean, but it is just that thing of I think you tend to morph into the nicknames that you get, and obviously I'm quite a big guy. I'm very hairy, so Bear seems quite apt, especially as I'm a bit of a sadist and a bit of a grizzly bastard. So just a quick run over. Obviously, I know that there's a percentage of you that have been sat in the room for some of the healthy mental practices workshops, possibly some of the consent workshops, and some of what we cover at the very, very beginning may seem a bit like telling you how to suck eggs, depending on how long you've been on the scene. But from our point of view, and certainly for myself, it's about dotting I's and crossing T's, because whilst you may have heard the same thing 10 times, just like, for instance, when you go and sit on an aeroplane and the person starts telling you where the exits are and here and there and all that sort of stuff, it means nothing to us most of the time until the fucking plane starts going down. Yeah? And an awful lot of the safety aspects of what we talk about with rope are really relatively unimportant a lot of the time to us when we're doing stuff that doesn't go wrong. But unfortunately, it's not to be negative. What happens if it does? So what we try and do is give you what you would call in a work environment best practice. Yeah, best practice, best practice, best practice. And if you're a dominant, it's, to be honest, when you practice best practices, it becomes very, very or fairly easy to find people who are happy to be tied by you. And if you're submissive, it's actually quite a good way of working out who the people who are not quite so full of crap, are, because you know what they should be doing, you know what they should be saying, and it's a really good way of going, okay, yeah, I like the cut you do, So what we're going to do is we're going to run over the standard stuff. And we're going to make certain assumptions, which is probably one of the worst things you ever do in kink. Yeah, is to make an assumption. So we're going to assume that most of us practice rack. So anybody not know what rack is? Risk-aware consensual kink. Okay. The scene has an awful lot of acronyms, all right? So RAC is one of the ones that's been around the longest, yeah? So that's risk-aware consensual kink. So what we're trying to do is make sure that we're aware of what the risks are, what we do, and we're making sure that we mitigate those risks, but also we make sure that we get not just consent, but enthusiastic consent with the person that we're doing things with. So relevant to what Debs was saying earlier, we don't change the rules on that as we go along. What we do is we agree to do something, and that's what we do. We don't, and the only time we change what we do is if we do less rather than more. Because sometimes we may agree to do something. For instance, I get asked all the time, because everybody wants to do when someone asks you to do rope, what do you think everybody wants you to do to them when they want rope?
Suspension.
Yay! The magic one, the holy grail. Yeah. I've been tying people up for 31 years for bedroom bondage. Yeah. And I've been doing shibari for 7 years, and I've been teaching it for 5. And I can probably count on all of my fingers and toes for the number of people who've said to me, "Oh, can I have a semi-nawa session or an ichi-nawa session?" Everybody says, "Oh, I've always wanted to be suspended, you know." Really? Because it's the thing that everybody sees, and everybody goes, "Wow, that looks amazing," you know. And in reality, it's less than 20% of what I do on a weekly basis. I tie 3 to 4 days every week, and less than 20% of what I do is suspension, because it's only a very, very small part, but it's the bit that gets all the headlines. You know, whether those are always positive headlines or not doesn't really matter. It gets the headlines. So obviously, it is about understanding what the risks are of things like suspension. Yeah. So it is always risk-aware consensual thing. And that's why I say consensual. The number of times where I agree to potentially suspend someone, possibly in the magic TK, you know, the tapakote, which is what everybody thinks is the best tie, or the tie that everybody wants to be tied in. And then you lay a rope on them and you realize, hang on, they may have potentially some history of an injury or a sports injury or a back problem, and you actually may not be able to put them in that tie. So you might end up having to do something different. But as a general rule of thumb, once you agree what you agree, you stick with what you agree, or you do less. Yeah, and that's never a bad thing, because actually, one of the things I've learned over the last 30 years is leave them wanting more. Yeah. Oh, I can take more. Yeah, I know you can, but not today. Yeah. Oh, but no buts. Yeah. It's a lovely butt, but no more. Enough it up. Yeah. So the other one is SSC. Anybody not know what that one is? It's another acronym, a magic one, and that stands for safe, sane, and consensual. That's a little bit of a misnomer, because obviously all of the things that we do would be deemed by vanillas as sane. You know, it's always a difficult one. So we're assuming that we're doing sane things. Not doing any waterboarding today, are we? No. Most of them have you heard of consent fries? Yeah. So you would have heard of that from LAM. That's quite a one that we try and drive home quite a lot. Yeah. And then this is probably one you may not have heard, and it's one of actually my favourites, which is, I will gladly sit here and say, I'm a prick. All right? I'm a prick, and I'm proud of it. Because prick means, in the kink scene, means personally responsible, informed, consensual kink stuff. So I take personal responsibility for even just putting my boots on. Because I know the minute I put a different pair of boots on, Seb is going to get wet. Yeah? Because the minute I put a certain type of boot on, that is kink for Seb. So I take personal responsibility for that. Same as I would if I used one of my sabers on her butt, and made her cry. No different. To me, it's no different. But that also works on other side of the slash. So that is, as a bottom, what you should be trying to do if you want to learn about rope bondage, if you want to do rope bondage, learn the best practice. Learn how to communicate. Learn how things should feel, learn how things should potentially be done. Some of the best riggers I know are ex-subs or switches. One of my friends, Kate, who lives up in Manchester, she's an amazing rigger, absolutely outstanding. And she's probably the most subby sub I know. But as a rigger, she's out. The vast, what I would say to most people, not everybody, and it's not always possible, everybody's life is different, but what I would say to most people, the best way to learn anything is from someone else. Obviously, you have to make that proviso that that person is skilled enough to teach, yeah? Because just because someone is good at something doesn't mean they're necessarily a great teacher, yeah? But a very high percentage of us learn by doing. So actually, some of the best way to learn are workshops, but also peer workshops. So where you learn as a collective, or you may have one or two or three or four, depending on the peer workshop, more experienced people, and they'll pass that knowledge on, and we call that paying it forward. Someone else taught us and spent the time, and we feel it's right to pass that on, that best practice on. And I think that's one of the best things about our team. You know, and I, like, give you an idea, I know there's a workshop later, and if I had a choice, even though I've been doing this a long time and I know what I'm doing, I'd still make the workshop. And the reason I say that is this, you know, I taught people in a business environment for over 20 years, and I always used to say to people would say to me, well, Sean, why are you going to this training session or this conference? And I go, well, if I go there and learn one thing, it was absolutely worth it. But actually, if I go there and learn nothing, it was even more worth it. Do you know why? Because that just reaffirms that what I'm doing now is right. Because if all that person does is show me things that I know already, that tells me I'm doing quite well. That actually has a much better effect on my personal self-worth than anything. So no matter how long that you're learning, no matter what it is that you're learning, if there's an opportunity, get out there and learn. It really is, honestly,